Lawmakers are arguing about a new panel to investigate the 2012 Benghazi attack. Ahead of the Pope's Holy Land visit, we'll talk to the American Jewish Committee during this month dedicated to Jewish heritage. The deepest talent pool ever awaits this week's NFL draft. We have a preview tonight. And Charlie Chaplin is immortalized in his films. Now his house will become a museum. Those stories and more just ahead on EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, May 7th, 2014. Good evening from Washington, D.C. I'm Brian Patrick with our EWTN News Nightly team. We begin tonight looking at news now as a political battle is brewing here in the nation's capital. House Republicans and Democrats are digging in their heels over a potential panel to investigate the 2012 attacks on a U.S. diplomatic post in Benghazi, Libya. Wyatt Spencer joins us now from Capitol Hill tonight with more on both sides of the political aisle. Wyatt?
Brian, a special vote here in Washington could come as soon as tomorrow. If it passes, it would create a new panel, a new committee that would be the investigative authority for the 2012 Benghazi attacks. It would have access to all the records and all aspects of this investigation. The bill is spearheaded by House Speaker John Boehner, who said last night this new panel is all about getting to the truth of President Obama's response to the attack. He's likely to get the votes he needs since the House is majority Republican and many Republicans support the idea. Meanwhile, today, House Democrats have been voicing criticism, saying the panel right now is not bipartisan, and they say it should be. They are even tossing around the idea of boycotting the panel. Many Democrats say this is just a political move ahead of this year's midterm elections. You may remember in Benghazi, Libya, on the night of September 11th, 2012, extremists attacked a U.S. diplomatic building, killing Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. Since then, the federal government's response has been questioned, some pointing the blame at the State Department for not providing enough security at that outpost. There is already an investigation underway by a House committee, but this new panel would, in theory, consolidate the investigation. In the meantime, Secretary of State John Kerry says he will comply with all of his responsibilities in talking with Congress. That comes even though Secretary Kerry is scheduled to take a trip to Mexico later this month at the same time that he's supposed to speak in front of a separate House committee about the Benghazi attacks. Brian?
All right, thanks, Wyatt Spencer at the Capitol tonight. Now some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. The Health and Human Services mandate returns to the spotlight here in Washington tomorrow. Oral arguments will be heard in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Court on Priests for Life versus Department of Health and Human Services. It will be the first time arguments on the merits of the case will be heard at the appellate level for religious nonprofit groups challenging the HHS mandate. That recent Hobby Lobby and Conestoga Woods Supreme Court hearing addressed the rights of businesses. Tomorrow, there will be a rally for religious freedom at the federal courthouse. One of the named plaintiffs in this case is Dr. Alveda King, Director of African American Outreach for Priests for Life. She's a pro-life activist and supporter, and of course, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is so good to have you back with us.
It is such a blessing. EWTN is right at the top of getting good information to good people, and I'm so grateful to be here.
This is an important step in the challenge to the HHS mandate. How does it directly affect Priests for Life?
Priests for Life, being a nonprofit organization, with our mandated message to protect the unborn and certainly the mothers of the babies in the womb. And so to have a mandate that does not clearly protect us and our message and require that we deliver to employees the same service that we are speaking out against, and that being free so-called birth control, something that can harm women, prevent babies from being born. And so the HHS mandate is just, it goes against everything that we envision and that we work for at Priests for Life.
Now, the hearings tomorrow are just one step. How significant are they?
Those hearings are very important because it will affect, for instance, as Hobby Lobby is for-profit, Priests for Life is nonprofit. And so we're leaders saying that you're going to hurt many businesses, many nonprofit organizations if you insist on going down this path. And so a ruling in our favor that says that it is unfair and unjust for us to be forced to provide so-called services to women. And it goes against totally what we represent and stand for. We're not going to only be speaking for ourselves, but for many.
Like your uncle, Dr. King, you are a dynamic speaker, and I know you'll be speaking at a rally tomorrow organized by Priests for Life. What will your message be?
Speaking of religious freedom, the freedom in America to believe and stand firm in what we believe in, to not be penalized for our beliefs. I personally believe, as an employee of Priests for Life, one who is post-abortive, who's been affected by carcinogenic birth control products, that birth control in its description as what is being offered is harmful to women. And so I believe that as I speak out, as Priests for Life speaks out, we'll be representing so many people. My uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It is very unjust to force people against our religious beliefs to provide a so-called service that we know will be harmful to many, many people.
How would he weigh in on this? What would he say, do you think?
I believe that my uncle would be there with us, praying, encouraging others to pray. I would like to think that he would say to the president, to the administration, to the lawmakers, you know, people need good education, people need good food, people need good and healthy and happy families. And so why not provide those services for Americans rather than something that's going to hurt Americans?
What a beautiful collaboration you have with Priests for Life. I wonder what draws you to this work.
It's so amazing. When I met Father Frank Pavone, the National Director of Priests for Life, and later Janet Morana, and the wonderful group of the family of Priests for Life, I was certainly pro-life, a non-denominational Christian, but my message was broader. And as I began to share my own testimony of how abortion and carcinogenic birth control affected my life and hurt me, I found health, and healing. Rachel's Vineyard Silent No More Awareness Campaign, Director of African American Outreach, where I'm now able and empowered to tell African Americans how abortion and these carcinogenic products called birth control are hurting and decimating our community. So it empowers me, it heals me as I'm able to share the message of Priests for Life with the world.
And it's all in your new book, King Rules.
King Rules. There are 10 rules that will help everybody to live better lives. There's a whole chapter on life, an afterword by Father Pavone. And so if we follow the rules that God gives us and seek joy and peace and happiness and life, we'll have a better experience on this planet.
Dr. Alveda King, it's a blessing to have you with us. Thank you.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
The results are in now from the primaries, the first of the season. Unlike recent primaries when the Tea Party prevailed, yesterday's vote favored the GOP establishment. North Carolina House Speaker Tom Tillis, backed by Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney, won the Senate Republican primary. Now he'll try to unseat Democratic Senator Kay Hagan to win one of the 6 Senate seats needed for a majority. Tillis beat Tea Party-supported Greg Bannon by a very comfortable margin. Former American Idol star Clay Aiken faces a Democratic runoff after a close race, also in North Carolina. In Ohio, U.S. House Speaker John Boehner, a Republican, was renominated for his 13th term in Congress. And another Republican incumbent, Representative Susan Brooks of Indiana, seen here voting yesterday, there she is, pulled in 75% of the votes to win a 3-way race in her state. Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen had some upbeat news about the American economy today, although she's worried about the job market.
While conditions in the labor market have improved appreciably, they're still far from satisfactory. Even with its recent declines, the unemployment rate continues to be elevated. Moreover, both the share of the labor force that has been unemployed for more than 6 months and the number of individuals who work part-time but would prefer a full-time job are at historically high levels.
Chairman Yellen spoke to Congress's Joint Economic Committee today, and she also expects lower borrowing rates to be needed for a considerable time, as she put it. We're now learning about the economic impact of the harsh winter weather that hit much of the nation this year. U.S. productivity fell at 1.7% from January through March. Freezing temperatures and that constant snowstorms that we had disrupted growth. Retail sales and factory output plunged in January, only to recover as weather warmed by spring. Secretary of State John Kerry is taking a strong stand against the pro-Russian insurgents in Ukraine.
This is really the Crimea playbook. all over again, and no civilized nation is going to recognize the results of such a bogus effort.
Kerry made his comments while meeting with the High Commissioner of the European Union yesterday. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he pulled back his troops from the Ukrainian border. He also is calling for a delay in the referendum plan for this weekend. Violence in Nigeria, another topic that Kerry and the EU High Commissioner discussed. Today, it's been confirmed Islamic extremists have killed as many as 300 people in that country. Shops and homes were also set ablaze. The violence continues to escalate in Nigeria, where 270 schoolgirls have recently been kidnapped. We spoke with the Cardinal, John Ronkin, from the Archdiocese of Abuja in Nigeria. He told us that terrorism is his country and in his country cannot be ignored. The Cardinal also said he is asking for prayers for Nigeria. A court has forced out the Prime Minister of Thailand. The reason? Yingluck Shinawatra was found guilty of abusing her power. In 2011, she transferred a top official to another position in a way the court says was meant to benefit her family's political power. Shinawatra denies the court's decision that her actions violated the Thai constitution. The ruling also forced out 9 of her cabinet members. Anti-government protesters gathered in Bangkok today, waving placards and singing. Anti-government protests in Venezuela continue to cause unrest there. Masked demonstrators clashed with police in northern Venezuela today. Around 150 protesters battled back and forth with security forces in a city located about 160 miles west of the capital of Caracas. Riot police, along with National Guard troops, fired tear gas and rubber bullets in an attempt to disperse the demonstrators. At least 2 police officers were seen limping away from the scene. However, there were no confirmed reports on how many people were injured in those clashes. Violence has flared in parts of India as millions vote in national elections there. Officials say several troops were injured after suspected militants opened fire and an explosion detonated in a polling booth. No voters were injured. There are 814 million eligible voters in India. The country is voting in phases over 6 weeks, and the final day of that voting is on Monday. Coming up, Pope Francis appeared in public today for his weekly appointment with the world. And we look ahead to the Holy Father's trip to the Holy Land coming up at the end of May. Thank you so much for watching EWTN News Nightly on this Wednesday, May 7th. A leading Vatican cardinal says a group of American nuns did something that could be seen as an open provocation to the Holy See. Jason Calvi joining us with that story tonight. Jason?
Yes, Brian, strong words from the Vatican's doctor-in-chief. He was talking about a meeting he had with the LCWR, the Leadership Conference of Women Religious. They represent about 80% of American sisters' communities. And now we're able to confirm tonight an email the LCWR officials sent to their members describing the meeting. They called it honest, respectful, and engaging.
The head of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, Cardinal Mueller, said he was saddened the LCWR will honor a theologian whose work has been criticized by the U.S. bishops. He says in the future the conference will need to follow an already given mandate that the group clears speakers and honorees with the Vatican's appointed observer, Seattle Archbishop Peter Sarton. In a letter to members, the LCWR leadership wrote that their honoree this year has served on a Vatican commission and was a U.S. bishop's consultant. The cardinal also had major problems with a particular theological issue that he compared to an ancient heresy. Cardinal Mueller said his words come from great love. He also said progress has been made. The leadership of the LCWR meets with Vatican officials every year. This issue is more than a decade old, though. It's a story our news partner, the National Catholic Register, has been covering since then. Since 2001, the Vatican has been raising major doctrinal issues with this leadership conference, including issues like women's ordination, homosexuality, and the role of Jesus as the Savior of all. In 2008, the Vatican found improvements were not made. There was a theological investigation into the group. Then the Vatican mandated a reform of the LCWR in 2012.
And the LCWR spokeswoman tells me they aren't doing any interviews on this issue. She tells me that when their officers return from Rome, they'll put out a statement. And Archbishop Sarton tells our news partner, the National Catholic Register, that the conversations were frank, open, and respectful.
All right, thank you, Jason. Today, the Pope held his weekly audience in St. Peter's Square with thousands of people from all over the world. The Holy Father reflected on counsel, one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. He highlighted the importance of prayer to preserve this gift of counsel. He also reminded the faithful that May is the month of Mary, and he announced the Vatican Secretary of State will travel to the Shrine of Our Lady of the Rosary in Pompeii on Thursday. Concerns about China's human rights record came up at an international pro-life forum this week in Rome. Reggie Littlejohn, president of the Women's Rights Without Frontiers, was part of that meeting and spoke to one of our Rome reporters about China's economic growth.
Some of the population has come up from poverty to being more middle class, and that actually is an incentive for saying nothing, because their lives are materially better even though they still don't have human rights.
Littlejohn says that along with economic growth, she hopes for an increased focus on the dignity of the human person in China. Ahead of Pope Francis's trip to the Holy Land this month, one of the priests helping to organize that pilgrimage is releasing a special prayer. Here you can see part of that prayer that Father Rafit Bader hopes his pilgrimage will help Christians of the world to live in peace, especially in the Middle East. The prayer calls on the intercession of our two new saints, John Paul II and John the 23rd. Pope Francis will visit Jordan, Palestine, and Israel May 24th through May 26th. Joining us now, the Regional Director of the American Jewish Committee here in D.C., Alan Ronkin. And this month, Pope Francis will make the fourth papal visit to the Holy Land. What has the reaction been to this trip in the American Jewish community?
Well, I think all of us are very excited about the Holy Father's impending trip. It's a wonderful thing to be able to host him, to be able to see the holy sites, and to have his presence there at a time particularly when the peace process is in such dire straits. I think it brings a wonderful amount of calm and real excitement to the people of Israel.
Like John Paul II, Pope Francis has a deep commitment to unifying Christians and the Jewish people. Do you think the relationship between the Vatican and the Jewish community is improving?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, if one could go back, 70 years and think about the relationship between the Catholic community and the Jewish community and how much has changed since then, no one would ever believe it. And I think the relationship with the Vatican has been terrific, and certainly Pope Francis has been a big part of that.
And this isn't anything new for him. As the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he wrote a book with a rabbi. They were very, very close friends and really collaborated on a lot of things, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that his ministry in general has really been very inspirational to our community. I mean, reaching out to folks and changing the way that people feel about the Pope and about the Church has really been very inspirational.
Well, the Pope mentioned in his audience that May is the month of Mary, but May is also Jewish American Heritage Month.
Yes.
How do you celebrate that?
Well, I think it's an opportunity for us to all reflect on, 350 years of Jewish life in this country. There have been, from astronauts to statesmen to captains of industry to clergy, amazing amounts of contributions that members of our community have made to the United States, and we're just very proud of that, and take opportunities to celebrate it and to commemorate, and I think it's just been a terrific month for us.
Well, we celebrate with you, Alan Ronkin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to see you.
Up next, with a deep pool of talent, including nearly 100 juniors, the NFL draft is about to begin. And wouldn't it be fun to visit Charlie Chaplin's house? It could happen. It will soon be a museum. Thanks again for joining us tonight for EWTN News Nightly. I'm Brian Patrick, and it's still a few months until football season, but the NFL is busy recruiting this week. A little thing called the NFL Draft starts tomorrow, and it's attracting a lot of attention. While a lot of the hype at this year's NFL Draft involves the quarterbacks and wide receivers, the first player off the board will likely be one of the most coveted defensive players in several years, Jadeveon Clowney, despite some criticism of his work ethic on the field.
There's a sense that he doesn't try as hard as, the NFL highlight packages make you think every guy plays. Plenty of players take plays off. We know he's got all the tools. If I were a betting man, I'd bet this guy will be a very good NFL player, and I think he's worth the risk.
Should Houston decide to pass on Clowney with the first pick, it could opt for a quarterback. The team traded longtime starter Matt Schaub to the Raiders. Texas A&M's Johnny Manziel, a.k.a. Johnny Football, already has all the hype both on and off the field.
He's a wonderful innovator. He's got a really, really strong arm. The question is going to be, is he too small, number one? And number two, after he gets hit a couple of times by guys that are built like Mack trucks and run like deer, is he going to get up and be able to play with any length and any durability?
Manziel's not the only option getting first-round buzz. Blake Bortles of Central Florida, Teddy Bridgewater of Louisville, and even Fresno State's Derek Carr could go early. Carr has some experience with the draft process. His brother David was the #1 overall pick in 2002. There is also a deep group of wide receivers, including Sammy Watkins of Clemson, Mike Evans of Texas A&M, and Marquise Lee of Southern California. The SEC Defensive Player of the Year is projected as a middle-round prospect. The first round of the NFL Draft is set for tomorrow night. It runs through Saturday. And tomorrow, my dear friend Danny Abramowitz, a former NFL All-Pro wide receiver and NFL coach, will join us with his take on the draft. Well, the public will soon get a unique look at Charlie Chaplin's personal life and film career. His family announced plans today to turn the private home of the 20th century film icon into a museum. This large but rundown mansion on the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland was Chaplin's respite from his fame during the last 25 years of his life.
In this museum, we will discover the house like it was when Charlie Chaplin was living here, exactly like it was. And we will have a new building that we start the construction today. This building will be a Hollywood building, a very huge building where people will discover all the sets and the decors of his movies.
The multi-million-dollar project to bring this classic entertainer to a new generation is on track to be opened by 2016. Well, a high school in Texas is using robotics to help out a family in need. ENN's Susie Pinto has that story tonight.
Meet Zaxton, a Texas 2-year-old with a lot of energy. His hobbies include running, watering the garden, and learning about spaceships.
Eco Blaster!
Zaxton was born with a condition called cleft hand, with only a thumb and pinky on his left hand. Because prosthetics were cost prohibitive, Zaxton's mother, Kathy, researched the internet and found a set of plans for an adult prosthetic hand. She asked her older son, Christian, to talk to his former robotics teacher about using the high school's 3D printer for Zaxton.
So I said, hey guys, you want a project? How about this? And they said, oh yeah, that sounds great. And that's where it started, the whole thing started.
3 of Herb Wasson's students were already looking for a Skills USA competition entry, so they quickly agreed.
Every week for the first 3 months was almost every single day after school for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
The students tailored the existing plans to a 2-year-old boy. They took his measurements, used CAD software to tweak the design, and then printed a new hand.
There will be days in which Lexi, James, and I were staring at the whiteboard for half an hour until one of us goes, oh, I get it now. It's got to do this.
And to get the hand to do this, the students have made several iterations, each to improve upon the last.
It's so rewarding to see the look on his face when we hand him the newest prototype and he plays with it for a little bit and it's like, you just see his face light up.
Zaxton's mother, Kathy, agrees.
And with this hand, he's going to be able to get more out of life. He's going to be able to do things that he couldn't do before.
The Leander team will compete at the National Skills USA competition in Kansas City in June, but they've already won over this little boy. Susie Pinto, EWTN News Nightly.
What a great project, and I know his mom is very happy. So from one happy mom to another, it's extremely rare for triplets to be born without fertility or hormone treatments. But 47-year-old Sharon Lewis of Miami, Florida got a surprise just before Mother's Day when doctors delivered not 1, not 2, but 3 infants. Because of Lewis's high blood pressure, doctors decided to deliver her babies early. At 30 weeks, Dylan, Denier, and Denard each weighed about 2 pounds at birth, and miraculously, the doctors say they are each healthy.
I felt that it was nobody but God that had blessed my womb at 47. And I do believe that he brought me to it, he'll bring me through it.
A beautiful gift of life times 3. Well, that's it for tonight. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Catch us again on EWTN's YouTube page. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, I'm Brian Patrick. Thanks for watching tonight. We're now on 5 nights a week, so we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, and God bless you.